Everybody, welcome on in. It is that time of the week. Shifted back one day because we talked to a bunch of Oklahoma players and all that stuff on Wednesday night. But it's playoff time here in the state of Oklahoma. And the Sooners on SA podcast will be here for all of it. Got myself, Ryan Chapman, hanging out here in More America. We got Hoover up in the 918. John, how have you enjoyed your did you enjoy your week off, I guess, sort of, as we took in all of the just weirdness over the past few weeks or few days?
Yeah, just a little bit of almost an open date feel, didn't it? I think I heard one of the players last night refer to it as an open date, and I was like, it's not an open date, but it kind of feels like it.
Yeah, it's been weird. This is traditionally the time of year where you don't know what day it is, at least if you're a sports writer, just because we're not going to Saturday to Saturday to Saturday. We obviously got together for the emergency podcast on Sunday after the field was set. Carson, have you had more time to digest everything college football playoff?
Yeah, plenty of time. Definitely my schedule's a bit thrown off just based on when we get to talk to players, when we're podcasting. So everything's a little bit rearranged, but doing well. Like Hoof said, not much of an off week, but definitely a different pace. So I'm excited.
That's our guy, Carson Field. Speaking of rearranged, our good pal, Ryan Aber, him and I have kind of switched schedules a little bit. I've taken most of this week off of radio. Aber has been filling in radio at Howard Studios. Is everything good? Everything in place? Am I coming back to a cleanish studio environment?
Yeah, I think as long as, Jerry and Kelly don't burn it down this afternoon right now, I think you'll be okay. But so far, so good. I'm just glad that we will presumably be talking about other stuff other than just Sharon Moore today, because that dominated the airwaves for the last 4 hours for me.
Oh, Aber, you didn't know this. Former Sooner, he's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Now, we don't once they become Michigan men and start cheating on everything, whether it be rules, lives, whatever, they come off. They're out of our purview.
My wife asked me last night when I was telling her all this stuff. She said, "Are you gonna write something?" And I go, "No." She goes, "Oh, I mean, you write about Baker all the time, and former Sooners." And I was like, "No, what am I gonna write?" Sharon Moore, who played in 7 games when he was a Sooner for 2 years from junior college. No, nobody cares about that. Everybody who cares already knows.
Yeah, I will say though, it's fascinating that. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer's name has been brought up as a potential candidate at Michigan, and then whoever the newest Michigan coach, whether it be Kalen DeBoer or somebody else, their first big game is going to be against Oklahoma in Ann Arbor next year. So while we can distance ourselves from a little bit, it's still a storyline down here as well.
Well, I can't wait. Aber doesn't know this yet. We're actually going to send him up to Michigan, and he's going to cover all the legal proceedings. I did have to text Hoob last night and be like, so if this was an OU situation, would we be at the jail right now? Would we be camping out? I was just like, I hope not.
I mean, I was around for the Joe Mixon thing, so I've been in those situations where you're staking out courthouses and jails.
Pittsfield Township is where you need to be, Ryan Aber. Pittsfield Township. We'll send you up there for a week.
The funny thing is, I know I believe now former, might still be practicing, but a former judge in the Ann Arbor area.
Well, dial him up.
I might have to.
Hey, it is nice, and I guess Oklahoma fans are probably in this stage up until the moment that Lincoln Riley left, but has it been nice for Oklahoma fans to sit back and be like, man, there's chaos at Florida, there's chaos at LSU, there's chaos at now Michigan, there was chaos at Penn State, and Brent Venables has not made it onto one hot board or anything, not because Brent Venables has not done a really good job this year, despite that one Coach of the Year award who names 12 guys and somehow doesn't pick the guy that was 6 and 7 a year ago and has us team in the college football playoff. But it's been nice just to be like, yeah, Brent Venables not leaving Oklahoma. Like, this is exactly what Joe Sigley and everybody wanted, right? Part of the allure of Brent Venables was the defense and getting this team ready for the SEC, all that stuff. Another part of it is that I think Oklahoma felt a little bit scorned and was looking for someone they knew that'd be locked in, be super loyal. And I think that we've seen the fruits of all that labor here over really this last month and a half through November. Hoove is the togetherness, the culture, all that stuff. Not worried about outside distractions, not worried about coaching searches, and they're just focused full speed ahead on the college football playoff.
Guess what Joe Castiglione got when he got Brent Venables? He got a program guy. Yeah, a guy that's actually invested in the program, and Brent is lifelong. It might as well be, right, since he joined at such a young age from K-State way back when. Yeah, no, this program, we've talked about it in the past couple of weeks, for sure, and that is that they've taken on the personality and the look of their head coach, who comes in and he's grimy, and he's gritty, and he just wants to win, and his voice is hoarse, and he doesn't care, he just wants to win. He wants his guys to experience the victory. That's what he doesn't care about. He's talked. This is amazing to me. During the season, he kind of hinted, or at least intimated, what an inconvenience it was to have to recruit during the season. Remember that? Remember, he's like, yeah, I'd rather be focused on the game, but here we got all these recruits in, and I love those guys, and I can't wait to get them here, but I'm kind of focused on the game. That's a guy that's just super laser focused on what he's doing, and that's what Joe Castiglione wanted when he got Brent Venables.
We've also talked too about how it finally feels like this Oklahoma team has, on the field, we say so often that teams are usually reflections of their coaches and things like that. And over the month of November, it's finally transformed. You're starting to see Brent Venables, the coach, that personality percolate through the team. Well, Carson, you and I were out at the stadium last night talking to a bunch of the guys. We'll lay out the media schedule here for you guys. We talked to some players last night. Then Sunday and Monday will be the college football playoff mandated player appearances. We'll talk to Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle on Monday as well. If you guys remember back to that TCU Black Friday game, we just moved everything up a day in the week. So because Brent and Arbuckle usually go on Tuesday, they'll go on Monday, all that stuff. We had our first, official talking to the players last night, Carson, and it was a couple things. One, Brent Venables doesn't often put much bulletin board material out in his press conferences. Everyone was on high alert, red alert for don't say anything interesting or anything that could be pulled out of context. But if you peel it back a little bit, like Brent talks about it all the time, the preparation and stuff like that, Carson, I think the biggest through line from every guy we talked to last night was not worried about the rematch as much as just whatever team is the most prepared is going to be the one that plays best. That's a big time Brent Venables details thing. And that's kind of what my big takeaway is, that whether it be last week's little mini bye week or this ramp up period, it's all full speed ahead on self-scout from the first Alabama game and doing everything you can to make sure that you've done all the preparation work once you step into that stadium on December 19th.
Yeah, I'd argue that for the majority of the players we talked to last night, it was the most vanilla that we've seen a lot of them, which I think is a testament to how focused they are on preparing well, winning this game. It also could just be they're sick of us. They've talked to us 12 times this year. Maybe it's that, but I'm going to go with the former. I think Brent Venables, to what Hoover was talking about, he really does instill this grittiness, this toughness that we've seen, even though the offense isn't very good. How the heck are they winning this game? They're still winning this game, or whatever game that is. And I think that's carrying over into their preparation to play Bama again. I think you can't totally ignore the rematch, the stakes of this game, getting to play it at home. But I think they know that if they prepare well enough for this game, that they can withstand any challenges. Alabama obviously being a very good team, despite looking outmatched in the SEC championship game and despite OU winning in Tuscaloosa earlier last month. So it really is, it just seems like they're very just disciplined in their approach. I feel like it's easy to get on your high horse when you make it to somewhere like the spot of being a host in the first round of the playoff, but I feel like they're just really locked in.
I'm really curious once we get the ball rolled out on Friday. I guess that's going to be when we can really determine this. But you mentioned there, Carson, Alabama SEC championship game, and I think for every school in the SEC, and I think for Ohio State, Indiana, the conversation of the conference title games meaning a little bit less. I don't know if that registers, to win an SEC championship is a big time accomplishment. For Ohio State, Indiana, that was two 12-0 teams clashing, things like that. But once you come out of it and see that Alabama, an extra week of wear and tear, an extra week of being pretty banged up, you see Indiana, one of their best defensive players, go down not by playing a football game, but by a freak incident, high-fiving fans on the way back to the locker room coming out of the stadium. And then you get to look at, hey, Oklahoma, another couple of weeks, another couple of chances for R. Mason Thomas to get back fully healthy, another couple of weeks for Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock to heal up, another couple of weeks for John Mateer to kind of build that confidence. I almost wonder if it's like, because Alabama lost the SEC championship game, it's hard to do this because in hindsight, it's like if you won the game, then great, you probably have a bye or something like that. But because they lost the SEC championship game, I do wonder if Oklahoma has like a mini advantage there, like the extra week of rest with what Alabama's gone through and a big rash of re-injuries is going to be like almost it'll almost replicate the fact that OU went into the first matchup coming off of a bye week while LSU was having to, or Alabama was having to worry about LSU and all that stuff. It makes it for an interesting dynamic with an Alabama team that suddenly feels a little bit more, I don't know if they ever were invincible, but a lot less of a threat when you compare that the first time Alabama was riding high John off of, all these ranked wins and all that stuff in a row right before getting to LSU and then Oklahoma.
Yeah, I guess that works both ways, though, Ryan. OU might be the more rested team, but think about the CFP last year. The team that went into the CFP and hosted and played a first-round game, they ended up beating the team that was rested the week, in the quarterfinals. So, I think it matters a little bit, and I think it matters like here and there, like to some of the players and some of the coaches and some of the families, but not all. Hard to paint a broad brush there. So, no, this thing's going to come down to who prepared better, who took more from the previous game, and is able to replicate it or fix it in some cases. If Alabama doubles up Oklahoma in total yards again, I don't think they're going to turn the football over. Could happen, certainly could happen, but this is going to be about who executes better, whose quarterback has the fewest turnovers, stuff like that.
Well, and that's certainly, I know Eli Bowen, who I wrote about this morning, OklahomaSooners.com. Aber, he was a guy that we go back and we look at this Oklahoma defensive performance, and it's like, yeah, they gave up the yards, but if you look at it, 21 points to Alabama on 75 plays, basically 25 plays to get into the end zone. You're going to love that. All the turnovers, and really what they did in the second half, they had the first long drive Alabama did, but after that, really locking it down until you got to the end of game scenario, which was kind of weird because it was a lot of plays, decent amount of yards, but they weren't really going anywhere, that kind of thing. I found it interesting that Eli Bowen's first thing was like, yeah, I've got 2 straight picks against Bama. I had a pick 6. That's great. I feel like I need to play a lot better, and there's a lot of guys on the defense that feel that way. Maybe I don't know. It was just kind of odd to hear that, but like it makes sense too in some ways.
Yeah, I think you can look at it, a couple of different ways. You just look at raw yardage and the numbers that Ty Simpson put up. They were really good, outside of the interceptions, obviously. But, Oklahoma played really well defensively when they really needed to. They made the plays at the opportune times, and that's really what this defense has been about. I think it's going to come down to a lot to, one, how much they can get after Ty Simpson, make him uncomfortable. Been some talk about how healthy Ty Simpson is or isn't at this point. Whatever the reason is, he's clearly been a different player post-Oklahoma than he was before Oklahoma. And if you can get him rattled, you can have some success against an Alabama team that, yes, we anticipate them having, their running backs back, but still running for -3 yards in the SEC championship game, not something that you can do and expect to win football games on. And Oklahoma certainly got a fantastic run defense there. But if you can limit Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, keep them from making those big game-breaking plays, then you can have success against this Alabama offense. You've got to find something offensively yourself to be able to build some momentum there. But I also want to go back to what Hoover was talking about time off, the playoff last year, things like that. I think the difference is first round to the quarterfinals of the playoff, you're talking about a team that's coming off a victory and building some momentum and feeling really good about themselves. This time, Alabama's coming off a, thrashing at the hands of Georgia. And I think that's a little bit different. Now, there are some things about, injury and recovery and just sustainability when you talk about the flow of a season that hold true. But I think it's a little bit of both sides of things there. I think on balance, I'd probably rather be in OU shoes. And, coming off a couple of weeks off and being able to get R. Mason Thomas a little bit healthier, some of those other guys, things like that, then be in Alabama's coming off a 31-3 defeat. But I think it's an interesting dynamic. And I also think as this playoff expands, at what point do we start talking about conference championship games, and do they really make sense, and are they really necessary, especially in a conference like the SEC where you anticipate both the winner and loser getting in, just because it can hurt both teams, but especially the losers of these games.
Yeah, I think we know that the conferences and the networks would love to keep those games. I think that what you might see is like, hey, if we feel good about X, Y, and Z making it in, could we play Texas and Vanderbilt in this extra game and make it a play-in game, even though they already played? But make that something that conferences still get their extra game. You get to build as a playoff decider, that kind of thing, and maybe get some of the vibes you got from that Friday night American Conference game. But we'll see. And it's something, too, with both Alabama, like coming off a loss. It's something you wrote about, Carson, on was that Monday, the days all run together, just about, I do think a big part of the preparation in this is going to be whether it be Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb on the Alabama side of things, or Ben Arbuckle and John Kuzieski on the Oklahoma side of things, sitting Ty Simpson down and sitting John Mateer down, and how in these 10, 15 days that you've had, depending on what spot you're in, how do you erase the interceptions for John Mateer from that LSU performance? Or how do you just mentally wipe really the last 3 weeks for Ty Simpson? Since the Oklahoma game, couple of picks against Eastern Illinois. He wasn't great against Auburn. Certainly everyone was bad against Georgia. It's going to be this weird, like, as much as the prep that they're doing on the field and the self-scout, for the quarterbacks, Carson, this is like a sports psychologist, roll the couch out and see who can do a better job mentally getting those guys back to the peak version of themselves for this big-time rematch.
Yeah, I think if you would have told us in about week 5 that Ty Simpson and John Mateer would play against each other in the first round of the playoff, I think all 4 of us would be like, oh, that's going to be a heck of a quarterback duel. Points. That's going to be incredible. Now you look at it and you're like, which quarterback doesn't play as bad? Like, that's probably the team that wins. And John Mateer, we talked about, he threw for a lot of yards against LSU, couldn't keep a hold of the ball. There are goods, there are bads, but he did hit Satania in stride, had that nice screen pass to Deion Burks. Granted, that one more being Burks' speed than Mateer's passing ability. But a lot of ups and downs with him. Simpson, like you said, he was just incredibly efficient, took care of the ball early in the season. Now he's throwing multiple picks against Eastern Illinois. Should have had multiple picks against Oklahoma. And he's not the same player that we saw. I'm not sure if it's health related. That's certainly a speculation that I've seen. But I do think a big part of it's just which quarterback can maintain the flow of this game, which one can avoid the costly turnovers, find the easier stuff. Obviously, protection very, very much needed from the offensive lines for both quarterbacks. So it's not going to be this quarterback just showcase that we thought probably. But I think both players have a lot of potential to have a good game out here. And I think that could be a big edge.
It's also another weird, we're just talking about wild cards all over the place. It's a playoff game, right? It's do or die. This is not something where you need extra motivation. Like, if you don't come out fired up for this game, you don't have a pulse. Like, we know that. But there is something about getting through every single practice, and how do you find this little chip or this little edge? And somehow, some way, John, Oklahoma goes out and is number 2 in the SEC on the all-SEC team in players. They get 10 selections, only trailing Georgia. Yeah, and if we had asked anyone preseason, you have 10 selections, you're second in the conference behind Georgia, I think that everyone in the locker would be like, this is unbelievable. But the distribution of those selections, the fact that you didn't have David Stone or Grayson Halton, interior defensive line play was kind of just ignored on the all-SEC team. It was just like edge rusher. This is an Oklahoma defense that came out, and the linebackers, Kip Lewis, what more does he have to do to get on an all-SEC team? Peyton Bowen, like, getting honored, but maybe not honored in the right spot. It's one of those things where you didn't need any extra motivation. And again, once we get to playoff Friday, I don't think that's where it comes into play. But It does sound like, based off last night, a lot of vanilla up until you mentioned all SEC, whether Grayson Halton just smiled. And if you read what Grayson Halton said, it's like, okay, but you could tell Grayson Halton smiled at me when I just mentioned, hey, did you see the LASCC team? Coben McKenzie, very vocal about the linebacker. I don't know if I want to see an Oklahoma defense that has like any other extra motivation, any other will to go out there and prove a point to anybody.
Yeah, you're right. I noticed that little smile from Grayson as well. He's kind of looking like this. He looked away and he went, like, you'll see. We'll see. I mean, how much motivation do you need? You said there were 10. The AP actually picked another team the next day, yesterday, and 2 more guys, Owen Heineke and who was the other one? Now I've forgotten. The AP guy. Anyway, so there's a total of 12 now for Oklahoma. And what that means is there's 6 guys who made that first coaches team who didn't make the writers team. So now that those guys that made the coaches team, they're looking at that saying, those writers, those AP guys, they don't even think I'm good enough to be on the first or second team. So it's like it's like a double barrel shotgun in this case.
Yeah, Heineke and Halton got the AP nod.
Oh, it was Grayson, yeah.
Yeah, that was not with the All-SEC nod. It just
and it's the best. Okay, hands down, the best defense in the SEC. Second best, number 2 run defense, I think, which is like 1 yard behind Georgia after Georgia did what they did to Alabama. It's the best defense. We've heard all year it's the best defensive line. We've heard all year they have the best rotation of defensive tackles. Not one guy. I mean, Grayson Halton gets an AP second team mention, and that's it. So I'm not sitting here stumping for anybody. I'm just kind of like everybody else. I'm a little surprised that Oklahoma didn't get more recognition on the All SEC teams.
Well, I think that. Sorry, Ryan.
No, go for it.
I think that's one of the things that shows just how good this Oklahoma defense is. It's really hard to pick off, who it would be. Do you vote for David Stone? Do you vote for Grayson Halton? Neither. Well, I mean, neither certainly started all season, but David Stone, has virtually come off the bench in every game, but he's been so disruptive. And I think also it's really hard to gauge the disruptiveness of defensive linemen based on raw stats. And it's different from the last couple of years where you've just seen Danny Stutzman rack up, over 100 tackles every year because he's, having to do a little bit of everything. This defense is not like that. And it just speaks to the difficulty of having to pick up just 11 guys. And sometimes it's, you go with one guy over another, or just say, well, can't really vote for either of them. I'm going to find somebody else. But also talking about the motivation side, and I know Hoove, you and Chapman in particular paid a lot of attention to the Thunder, and the way that Oklahoma City has been able to find motivation sort of moment to moment during this season, and this narrow laser focus, I think is really similar to the way that Brent Venables and the Sooners, especially on the defensive side, but sort of all around, have been able to do during this stretch in November and now December, in really narrowing in on things and being able to find your motivation in that moment in a different kind of way from a lot of teams. And I think that can be what separates this team in the playoffs. It's obviously going to be really difficult, especially after you get past this first round, but even in this first round. But, they're doing a lot of things right from a motivational standpoint to be able to be prepared, here, 12 days in advance, 11 days in advance, leading up to the game.
You're right. And I'll just say this real quick. Brent has established a rotation and a competition. Competitive depth is what they've been saying for 4 years, and that's what they've got. The question you have to ask yourself is, if you're an offensive lineman or maybe an offensive coordinator or maybe a quarterback standing back there, which one of those 4 guys in the OU's interior do you want in front of you, right? That's my question, is which one of those 4 guys are you going to pick out of that group and say, I think I want my guy blocking him, or I want to take on that dude. Good luck with that. I mean, all 4 of them are just animals.
And they've been fantastic.
They're animals. Then, like, oh, by the way, you got to pick R. Mason Thomas or Taylor Wine or Marvin Jones Jr. or Danny Okoye or PJ on the outside too. It's the motivation thing, Gabriel, like you've been talking about. It's what, hand up, have I often made fun of Kirby Smart for this? Yes, absolutely. Of like the year that they go back to back where he's like, yeah, and someone picked us to go 6-6. I was like, who picked you to go? Like, what serious human being? And I understand there's a lot of people out there, but part of finding that is exactly what you're saying, Avery. You have to find different things throughout the year. It's why Baker Mayfield endeared himself to like everyone in Norman, which is like, hey, Cliff Kingsbury didn't immediately offer me a scholarship the exact second that this happens. He's on the list. I've got the list and all that. It's what we all love. And is it psychopath behavior? Yes, absolutely. But I think that when it comes to super high level sports, when you talk about the competitive nature of all these guys, everyone, I mean this in the most endearing way, the best guys have true psychopath behavior all over the place, and that's what separates them from those of us that just like break a bunch of shots at the Y and we're just like, oh, okay, let's go grab a beer and call it a day. that kind of
I mean, everybody at this level is motivated in a way that, you know, we're not able to relate to athletically, at least. In other ways you can, but I mean, the really great ones, the ones who elevate themselves to a different level, find motivation in spots where there normally wouldn't be motivation. I mean, you just think about Michael Jordan and you know, the way that he took perceived slights that weren't even slights and turned them around. And then you look at the Thunder last night. Again, sorry to go back to them, but you know, you think about Devin Booker's comments from a couple weeks ago that on the surface were, you know, if you look at them or beyond the surface, they were really a compliment to, hey, we know what they're doing, but it's really hard to stop. But Oklahoma City clearly found a little bit of extra motivation in that and a way to turn it around. And I think that's what, you know, certainly Oklahoma football has been able to do, again, particularly defensively, but across the board here during this run, is use every little scrap of incentive to turn it into a positive force. And, you know, sometimes that can be, you know, sort of made up, but it still can help you. And then sometimes it can be real and it can help you. And that's what the Sooners have done.
Sounds like you're picking Oklahoma to win by 49 tomorrow. Is that what I just heard?
I wouldn't say 49, but I think, you know, certainly they've got a chance. Now, I also wonder about some of the things last night. You know, guys like Jaron Canick and Grayson Halton, who have generally been pretty gregarious or, you know, open or joking and things like that. You also worry about things tightening up a little bit. You know, was a little bit too much of that focus inward a little bit, but, you know, we'll see how that plays out next Friday. I think it's going to be just a fascinating sort of storyline and something to watch to see if that motivation rears itself or if it's plays into some tightness or anything like that. And then, you know, how things play out on the other side as well.
Carson, one of the fascinating things is like this team has some like legitimate motivation coming out of the first matchup. Like everyone saw, it almost felt like Oklahoma beating Alabama, which in a normal circumstance to take the road win at Tennessee and the road win at Alabama, it would have been everyone across the country being like, man, this team. And instead everyone was like, actually, the offense is an abomination and Notre Dame and everyone should actually get in and it should be Oklahoma's offense that gets left out and all that stuff. I think that Oklahoma will have some legitimate motivating factors there. And then the other part of it too, Carson, is you know that Brent Venables and that defense, they're saying, okay, we did good enough on the scoreboard, but what can we do, especially learning from the first half where Josh Cuevas, the tight end, had 60 of his 80 yards in the first half. Then after halftime, he only had one catch. And this is the rare situation too, Carson, where I feel like assuming you get R. Mason Thomas, even if R. Mason Thomas is on like a snap count, but he's someone that was not there in that first matchup with all of the versatility Oklahoma has on the back end and their front seven, stuff like that. I am really curious about this chess match when Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb are going heads up with Brent Venables of like, what is the self-evaluation of what we think worked and will be able to do again versus we threw this look at them, they're going to prepare for that, now we want to make these tweaks and things like that? Because that's probably what I'm most interested in, is when Alabama's offense is on the field attacking Oklahoma's defense, what the chess match, what the, hey, you had this and that, and the back and forth is going to be for those two units going heads up.
Yeah, it's definitely fascinating from both offensive and defensive perspectives about what do they change and what does the other coach on the other side, what do they change, and like how what are they expecting? Like, it's so hard when you've already seen a team, like you're kind of expecting certain things and you're like, okay, I can game plan for that. We can do that better. But knowing how good these coaches are, how sound of football minds these are, Kalen DeBoer and Brent Venables, both of them are going to make adequate changes and make things look a whole lot different on both sides of the ball. So I mean, while there are certainly a lot of things that you can take away from a regular season matchup, I think there's a lot that both teams are going to pull out of the hat that they didn't necessarily show in game one. I know Ben Arbuckle, for example, being the creative, air raid offensive mind that he is, there's still probably stuff that we haven't seen in any of the games, not just against Alabama this year. I'm sure we'll see some creative looks from him, try to work with what Mateer can do at this point. And same with Simpson. Well, we know he's not playing his best football, and if those reports are true that he's dealing with an injury, how do they make the game easier for him? Because it didn't look like he wasn't perfect in the game against OU in November, but he looked a lot cleaner than he did on Saturday against Georgia. How do his limitations change their offensive game plan, and how does OU respond? So there are just so many different variables about changing and responding to changes. So I think it's going to be crazy interesting.
Yeah, and Hoove, when you flip that around, I mean, we talked so much about Ben Arbuckle didn't like say these words, but he kind of talked around it in this way. When you have the Isaiah Stanley punt return immediately, and then the Eli Bowen pick six, which puts Oklahoma up 10-0, whatever Oklahoma's game plan was, and I'm not saying they drastically changed it, but I do think that they turtled up a little bit and went into the shell and just said, don't give this thing away. We saw as soon as they came back home against Missouri and LSU, it wasn't like they were connecting on a bunch of these deep shots, but they certainly were much more aggressive, knowing they didn't have a healthy Xavier Hobbs and stuff like that. I'm curious, you're home. The game state is going to be different because I'm not projecting the first quarter to go the exact same way. With maybe there's an early defensive score and you're in the same boat, but I'm curious just to see what that balance is for Ben Arbuckle, and we'll know pretty quick, like how much of a workload's put on Xavier Robinson. That'll tell us quickly how much healthier Oklahoma feels their running back is, and then from there, what does that do for John Mateer's workload? Because it really, really felt like outside of one or two specific spots in Tuscaloosa, it was what I would label a DFU situation for John Mateer. Don't give the ball away. Don't come back to the sideline and go, oh no, what had happened? I'm really, really curious to see. For Oklahoma, it feels like they might almost be able to draw up a new offensive game plan just because what they did in Tuscaloosa was so safe and so simple.
Yeah, you're right. I think just on the whole, I mean, this game is going to be more of a marathon than a sprint. So how you start is not going to dictate how you're going to finish. So there's plays to be made for 60 minutes. We'll see who makes the most plays. But I think what you're getting at is probably right. If Oklahoma can come out and successfully run the football on the first couple of drives, I think that's the theme you'll see throughout the day, is that OU is going to pound it, and you're going to see a lot of Mateer. I would expect Mateer to have 20 carries again. Was it the Michigan game? I think he had 20 carries, and I asked the
19, right?
Yeah, something like that. I asked the coordinator and the head coach and the quarterback as well, hey, is 19 carries okay with you for your quarterback? And they all said, hey, we'll do whatever we got to do to win the game. There's no doubt they're in that mindset right now.
Yeah, this is that time of year. It goes all the way back to the stuff that Mateer told us all throughout the offseason, that, like, was he trying to learn when to check it down, when to just throw it away? Yes, but he always talked about there comes a time, whether it be fourth quarter, third and fourth down, stuff like that, where you just got to put it on your shoulders. Aber, I think we've entered, everybody knows this is the same for all 12 teams in the field, not just Oklahoma and John Mateer. This has become the time of year where all of that thought, you can set it off to the side, because this is truly a do or die. And for Oklahoma, they've been gritty and scrappy and grimy. It's about how do you piece together 4 quarters today that get you to the next one, and then you can kind of like attack that as it goes the rest of the way.
Yeah, you do whatever you can to survive, and I think you've got to find some way to at least have the threat of running the football, whether that's John Mateer or the running backs. I think some of that on some level has to come but from the running backs, whether that's Xavier Robinson even at less than 100%, whether it's Torrey Blaylock or do they give does Javante Barnes get a chance to revive himself in this game from either side? But I think it's just a fascinating matchup all around. We'll see what they're able to come up with on the offensive side. But I'm much more interested on what they do on the defensive side. Carson touched a bit on it a little bit ago, but Brent Venables has been fantastic at making adjustments, whether it's from first half to second half, making adjustments from game to game, in doing different things with his defensive pressures, with what he's able to do in coverages, things like that have really kept teams on their toes in a different way. And there's a reason why Brent Venables has been successful over his career in rematches, is in large part because of that. Not only because of that, but because of that. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how much different this game plays out from that perspective, just defensive game plan wise, going in. Obviously, the reality is different for Alabama now than it was a month ago, but a lot of those same things still apply. But what Brent Venables is really good at, or one of the things that Brent Venables is really good at, is adjusting to things and not letting an offense get comfortable against one of his defenses.
Should be a ton of fun. Like we said, we laid it out earlier. We'll have plenty more opportunities to talk to Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle, some of those guys, things like that, here over the next couple of days. And Javante Barnes will be something we'll be asking about. Jake Michla and his recovery process, as well as R. Mason Thomas, kind of the two guys that Brent, when he was asked on Sunday about, he kind of just said, we'll see. We'll see if we're any closer to updates. In the playoff, we will get some availability reports that come out. The schedule for that is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, I have tried to look. There are some things that, because Oklahoma and Alabama are the Friday game, get pushed a day prior. I don't know if that means if there's availability report on Thursday, or if that still just comes out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I've been trying to figure that out. Haven't been able to quite get a straight answer from anybody. So we'll keep you abreast of all that stuff as we go. Into this weekend, you won't have to be, from an Oklahoma perspective, monitoring the Heisman ceremony on Saturday night, as there are no Sooners there, obviously. But the college football awards on Friday night will bring something for Oklahoma. Tate Sandell up for the Groza Award. That announcement will be made officially on the College Football Award Show on Friday night. And then tonight, Thursday night, you're going to get the 2026 SEC schedule drop. We know the opponents, all that stuff, but much like last year, we'll know at least the order of those games, the dates of those games. Then I would expect sometime, I believe last year it was in June. You got the preliminary windows of, like, is it a night game? Is it an early window, afternoon window, all that stuff. So we are a 365 sport now, college football is. So we will get the first bit of that. And I can just tell you right now, Hoover and I tonight will be booking a lot of hotel rooms for 2026. That's the thing that I'll be sitting at the Lee Noble Center like, okay, I need to get my Marriott account up for Athens and for Gainesville and all that stuff. So should be good on that front. Just because Oklahoma football is not playing this Saturday, though, doesn't mean it's not a big Saturday around these parts. We are inching closer to the Bedlam doubleheader. Sooner men and the Cowboys go at noon. The Cowgirls and the Sooner women go at 3 o'clock, both at Paycom Center. Carson with the dudes up first. Let's start there. A disastrous first half. Disastrous, first 5 minutes in Phoenix against Arizona State. Kind of dulls the luster of this little run that they've been going on. But if you can come away out of Bedlam against an Oklahoma State team that's off to their best start since, is it 09 or 07? Still beating all that stuff, we can take the step back and go, we asked them to go 3-1 in this stretch with Marquette, Wake Forest, Arizona State, Oklahoma State. And as ugly as it was really, really early against ASU, you get the win, you're still 3-1, and you can get 2 thumbs up as the last big check mark before SEC play gets going.
It was a really, ugly is the best way to put that game against ASU on Saturday. 27-2 run for the Sun Devils in the first half. I mean, for power conference opponents playing against each other, that's unheard of. That is a remarkably just dominant stretch of the game. And it was really discouraging to see for Sooner fans after they looked so good against Wake Forest. That was the first time of the year that I thought, okay, this looks like a really good basketball team. Went into Wake Forest, a road game, not a neutral game, a road game, took care of business and looked good in both offense, defense, down low. They looked really good. And then they found a way against Marquette. They weren't as great as they were against Wake Forest in that game, but that was still a good performance. Found a way late, which is what good teams do. So it felt like there was a lot of upward momentum, and that just all kind of evaporated with the Arizona State game, losing by double digits. Obviously, the disastrous first half. So it is a big game going against an old rival like Oklahoma State, a much improved team from when these teams played last year at the Paycom Center. So getting a win would be huge, would build not only resume but momentum. The 3 games after this before SEC play are fairly easy, so those should be wins. So getting this win before going into less of a gauntlet this year, the SEC is not as good. Getting a win against a good Oklahoma State team would be massive.
Yeah, I don't think if you're talking about Xavier Brown and Nigel Pack going 1 for 9 from deep, that's not the path forward for Oklahoma. Darion Reed doesn't have to be like a 5 of 7 guy, but to go 0 for 7 from the floor, that's not a path forward for Oklahoma. And I think we've seen Kai Rogers looks like coming off the injury, he has struggled maybe with like playing a little bit banged up and the pace of the game. If Mo Agee gets into foul trouble early, it feels like, Carson, is that like as simple as like the big difference between maybe this Jekyll and Hyde early season stuff? Is like if Mo can stay out of foul trouble, it unlocks something for this Oklahoma team. If he gets into foul trouble early, then it's just kind of a headache. And some of the issues we've seen out of Porter and OU teams really even go back to the Lon days, where if you don't have a big, it makes life really, really, really hard, especially in the leagues like the Big 12 and certainly what the SEC is now.
Yeah, Mo Agee, when he is not in foul trouble, is so effective out there. Great defender, just such a big presence down low. And Saturday was the first time that he truly fouled out of a game. He was in foul trouble in games against Gonzaga, Nebraska, both of which they lost. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's just a perfectly correlated trend, but it definitely is a big factor in why they're less effective down low. They're less effective defensively when Mo McGee is not on the floor. He's not able to be on the floor because one more and he's probably done for the game. That was big against the Sun Devils. It felt like whenever they did get a little momentum, they'd just get beat down low. There was no one to protect the rim, and ASU would just be able to kind of keep its pace when it seemed like OU was clawing back into it. So I think finding a way, he's still a young player. I mean, he's not a young player, but he's still new to this program. So just kind of getting that coaching to him, being aggressive, but not being foul heavy, I think that would be huge for this team.
Massive game there in the first one. The second game going to be an absolute shootout. We know the pace that Jenny Baranchek and these Sooners like to play at. It seems like they're just ramping that up as Leah Chavez gets more and more comfortable, and feels like Peyton Verhulst is refinding her way, and like, what does this specific team need? We know what Reagan Beers and Sahara Williams are going to bring. Oklahoma State team coming in, Aber. This has not been a great matchup for JC Hoyt going up against Jenny Baranchek. More fight has been shown after games by the Cowgirl team when it pertains to being upset that a team wins something on your floor. Like, they've been closer to like making things interesting there than they actually have in these games. But it's an OSU team that is, I believe it's 12th in 3-point attempts per game and 13th in the country in 3-point percentage. That may be flip-flop. Either way, top 15 in both 3-point attempts, 3-point percentage. They want to get up and run. Both of these teams, the way that they want to play, I don't think there's going to be like a big stylistic difference. Is this the rare moment where we see Oklahoma, and I'm using like, we're grading on a curve here. Oklahoma slowing the game down is still not slowing the game down, but by feeding Reagan Beers and Sahara Williams, Oklahoma can actually like maybe try to slow this game down a bit and just say, let's press the advantage and make Oklahoma State show that they can do anything against Reagan Beers.
Yeah, I think you've sort of got to. I mean, that's the clearly the difference maker in this thing. Oklahoma State has slowed down a little bit as far as chucking up a ton of threes. Early in the season they were leading the country, I believe, in three-pointers made. They've slowed down a little bit there, but they haven't slowed down really scoring wise. They're, I believe, second nationally in scoring per game, Oklahoma fourth. So this will be a fun game to watch. But I don't anticipate Oklahoma slowing it down a ton. But Jenny Baranczyk talked about this last week, trying to find ways to get Reagan Beers more involved and more assertive sort of from the jump offensively. And I think Oklahoma will make a point of that, especially against an Oklahoma State team that wants to, turn up the pace on you. I think that'll help the Oklahoma side, but also help that team moving forward to be able to win some games in some different ways. But I think this will be as fun of a Bedlam women's basketball matchup as we've seen in a long, long time for the styles of these teams, the star powers on both sides, the star powers on the sidelines with the coaches, with the job that obviously Jenny Baranczyk has done on the Sooner side and J.C. Hoyt has done on the Oklahoma side, the, boiling, I'm not going to say, well, there's a little bit of bad blood there between those two. So I think it'll be a really fun atmosphere. And, the schedule worked out all right that the women's game is the second one, because I don't think there's any doubt about that the women's game is going to be the marquee matchup of Bedlam on Saturday.
I like the setup, too, of the 2 games, 1 ticket, get everybody in. You can get a full day of basketball. Makes it pretty easy, so should be good there. And we saw a little bit of that style switch. The last big game Oklahoma played, that NC State game, which was an absolute thriller, being able to do all the Chavez and Sahara Williams things to, claw back in the third and fourth quarters. And then once you got to overtime and NC State really got into foul trouble, it was like, let's just hit the Reagan Beers button over and over and over again and see what that does. So should be fun there. We'll have full coverage of that between Carson and Brady. Carson will be there for every game, both games. Brady will be helping us out for the men's game. Aber and I will be tagged him in the women's game. So if you're out and about at Paycom Center this Saturday, come say what's up. We'll be hanging out and around. But it's not going to be like a dry week on the college football docket. Obviously, we get Army-Navy. We're just getting really accustomed to Paycom Center, Bedlam, plus NBA Cup, plus Army-Navy, all colliding on the same day for us. Before this Bedlam game, it felt like every time we were headed up to Tulsa for OU Arkansas, we were also second screening Army-Navy. Is that good? So we're just getting conditioned to that. But
by the way, I gotta throw in there real quick. Go Army, beat Navy.
There you go. It's gonna be interesting, I think, though, as this week unfolds with the Michigan opening now. Is this something that, whether it's the rumor mill stuff like that or just hot boards, Kalen DeBoer's name continues to get thrown about. I know that he was pretty firm once he got to SEC Championship Media Day about batting down some of the Penn State rumors and all that stuff, but it feels like this is going to be just another extra week, another round of weird what's going to happen across the country. The college football carousel, as we thought was going to slow down, has sped back up again, obviously, with some pretty different circumstances. It's, Hoover, I don't know how much this affects the team going into the playoff, but this will now be like a month and a half straight of Alabama's head coach's name being in the mix on stuff, no matter what appetite he actually has to leave Tuscaloosa and head north or not.
Yeah, I agree completely. I also agree with Aber. I love the Navy. I love everything about our Navy, but go Army. Yeah, there could be some distractions. I wouldn't put too much into it. The players are at a point in their season right now where they're like, man, we're this close to winning a national championship. I don't care who the coach is. They've invested so much in their lives and their careers in just this season. I don't think I would be terribly distracted if I were playing in that situation, but who knows? His relationship with a lot of those guys could be, if he's interested, which I don't think he is. I don't think you leave Alabama for Michigan. But for Oklahoma, there's one thing they need to remember: win or stay home. Right? It's not win or go home, it's win or stay home. They don't get to go to LA, they don't get to go to Pasadena if they don't win. I think I stole that from women's basketball a couple of years ago.
Win and stay home for the women. What they want to do is they want to win and stay home. And
they won their second round game, and if they lost it, they had to stay home because they were hosting.
Yeah, you'll have that going. I also wonder just these days, I think it's different for an LSU from this year, that you've underachieved, your coach gets canned, and everyone, when you get to the very end of the season, I don't think anyone would be surprised or shocked if some of the conversation around the locker room is like, hey, let's peek around. Carson, I don't think this is even the college football of like 5 years ago now, though. If you love your coach and he goes somewhere, finish out your season, and then the second you're done playing meaningful games, you'd be like, if I really like coach that much and I'm good, chances are coach is going to take me with it. Like, I don't know how much. It's something that Kiffin had kind of talked about when the first round stuff really started to kick off. Like, it's a different kind of distraction just because it is so easy to move around and transfer and all that stuff these days.
It is, and I think it's got to be especially distracting for a team like Ole Miss that their coach is already gone. He's not coaching in the playoff. Trinidad Chambliss, if he has an extra year, I mean, he's probably having a lot of conversations with himself about, am I going to stay here? Am I going to leave, follow my coach to LSU? So I think for those guys specifically, it's got to be a lot to handle. Bama, it's one of those things that it's still a hypothetical. Like, you're probably lying if you're saying you're not thinking about your coach possibly leaving, but you're not having to deal with that yet. So it's a less tangible. It's less of a like, okay, I got to think about that quickly thing. Like I would assume is kind of happening at an Ole Miss right now.
It'll be fun. We got game day coming to town on Friday, as well as they're going to do. I think they said that they're going to try and do the double dip for Oklahoma and Alabama, and then are they doing the morning game? I didn't see what the second one.
Yeah, A&M.
That would make sense. It's not the TNT game, so at least that they can just drag everything down south overnight and call that a day. Get that whole thing set up. Should be good. Boys, have we missed anything? I know it's been a weird schedule, and my list of things is in great disorder today.
I don't think so. Just we were going to make fun of all the preseason poll voters.
Oh yeah,
we can do that another time.
Yeah, maybe we need to couch that a little bit until like the actual once we get to the offseason, to be like, here are the teams that were left standing. Here's what the preseason poll voters had, and
it's shocking. It's shocking. I went through the list today and I was like, out, all the way down the list. So
it's not like the coaches were significantly better than the media folks.
They were just as bad. It was
bad across the board.
Yeah, just as bad.
Well, I think that's what we're seeing a little bit. It's kind of a little bit closer to the NFL, which there are cap mechanisms that help worst to first, and it's hard year over year. But I think you're seeing there's some places that have true stability, like Georgia and Ohio State, and it's what Oklahoma hopes that they'll be able to build off of this year. Then you have some places that they're up, they're down, they're sideways, and suddenly LSU goes from preseason is not going to win the Heisman, or are they going to be the SEC champion, to they were one of the first ones trying to find a coach. Same with Penn State, off a national semifinal last year, quick to find, at least make the decision to enter a coaching search, but not. So
I think it's worth mentioning that Friday we find out if Carson's bold prediction comes true.
We said that.
Yeah, so we'll find out Friday if your bold prediction comes true. My bold prediction has already come true. The good half of it.
Well, hang on.
My bold prediction was.
Hang on. The bold prediction was John Mateer wins the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
And then because of that also means that Oklahoma's also in the playoff. And
I don't think it one contingent on the other. I mean, I said these two things are going to happen. One of them happened, the other one didn't. 10-2 college football playoff was my bold prediction. I had to go back and look at that because I don't remember that stuff.
Yeah, I remembered mine because mine got just tossed out very, very quickly. I was thinking that Deion Burks and Jaden Ott, Oklahoma had two guys with 1,000 all-purpose yards, and Isaiah Satanian was there for me. He was like, I got you, bro. You know who didn't have my back? DeMarco Murray, for not playing Xavier Robinson from the very, very beginning. So yet another person, add it to the list of scorned DeMarco Murray people would be me.
Poor DeMarco.
Well, I just do your job, and maybe it would be okay. We'll find, like we said, schedule drop Thursday evening. Friday night, 6 p.m. is officially when the College Football Awards show starts. I do not know where the Groza is as it pertains to the list of all the stuff. And maybe Oklahoma pulls a Texas Tech, and this is what happens when new money works its way into college football. They don't understand how embargoes work, and they accidentally release the Butkus video before they're supposed to release the Butkus video. So great job to everyone down there in Lubbock. It's not that hard. Figure it out. I doubt that Oklahoma's operation will do that, but maybe we find out before then if Tate Sandell.
Well, I mean, when your program is the Sooners.
That's true. Got to get out there early and got to put your flag in places that it's not supposed to be. And we brought it all the way back around to Sharon Moore in Canada. With that, big thank you to Aber, big thank you to Carson, and who will be back next Wednesday for the full preview, and then obviously Friday night post game. Look for the post game pod, and once we get to Friday night, we can lay out either we're gonna be, while the pod's happening, booking flights to LA to get out to Pasadena, or everyone's gonna be really mad at us. And you know what? It happens. Part of what goes down here. Thank you again for tuning into the Stewards on the Side pod. But like we said, next Wednesday, back to the normal schedule. Look for the post-game pod, all that fun stuff, as we got you throughout the rest of the college football playoff. For Aber, for Carson, for Hoover, Ryan Chapman, thanks again. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.